are having some developing stories that we're monitoring this morning on Newzroom Afrika. Our reporters are on the ground. First of all, the Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi is today handing over the exhumed remains of 3 political activists in Komani in the Eastern Cape. Sipha Kema is there today. Then in KwaZulu-Natal, the annual Umkhosi Womhlanga, or the Zulu Reed Dance, is taking place in Mashobeni Royal Palace in Ophongolo this weekend. Nobuhle Modise is there for us. Then we now start off with those families of 3 political activists, Mncekeleli Boskati, Madoda Michael Ralane and Wantu Silinga. They are this morning receiving the remains of their loved ones. It's more than 4 decades after their deaths under apartheid. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi is presiding over the ceremony, which marks one of the final handovers under the Gallows exhumation project. Newzroom Afrika's Sipha Kema joins us live from Komani ahead of that service. A very good morning to you, Sipha. So the Department of Justice, in fact, the TRC unit under that department, has really been hard at work over the years in ensuring that the remains of those political activists are then exhumed and returned to their loved ones.
Absolutely, Katleho, and with the Gallows exhumation project, as you mentioned, that in line with the TRC recommendations, now the focus on this is to locate and exhume and repatriate or hand over the remains of those political activists who had died under the apartheid government back to the families, now focusing on those that were held prisoners to the then Pretoria Central Prison, which is now the Jose Mampuru Correctional Facilities. Now I'm joined by Mr. Thapelo Mokoshane from the TRC, the Deputy Director from the TRC unit within the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Now, we've been seeing the work, Mr. Mokoshane, by the TRC unit, bringing back loved ones to their families getting closure, having now the ability to bury their loved ones with dignity, but also, I mean, as African people and as Black people, the spiritual context to that means a lot to these families.
Precisely. This is a journey of families that is coming to an end, to actually enable them to find healing and closure. Why? Because the TRC unit also made a finding that the execution of all those who were hanged on death row for politically related offenses constitutes gross human rights violation. The brutality of death row was such that those who were hanged after execution, their bodies became state property, denying their loved ones to bury them with dignity. So today, our Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development will be at Komani to preside over this event, to hand over the exhumed remains of Wantu Silinga, Mncekeleli Boskati, as well as Madoda Michael Ralane. They originate from Komani here, and they were killed during the time of police brutality during the 1980s. So eventually, this therefore means that for the families, they have walked this journey, yearning for closure and healing, and this is done to redress the injustice of the past. Not also forgetting that approximately 130 political activists were hanged on death row for politically related offenses. So today's event will be wrapped up. Is the wrapping up of the Gallows exhumation project by the minister, which was launched in March 2016.
I wanted to actually ask about that. I do believe that this is the wrapping up of the Gallows project. But now, how many so far? You said 113, and then about, I think, 78 remains have been allocated back to families?
Yes. Let me break it down to you. There's 130. What this means is that when the project started, the Gallows exhumation project in March 2016, we were to exhume 83 remains of those who were judicially executed. That has been done. Apart from those who have requested not to be exhumed, their families saying, okay, we are okay for them where they are, meaning they have made peace with that. That's why we are saying approximately. But then why 83? Because when we started, other 42 who had already been exhumed, for instance, by the Eastern Cape province. So that is why the number we are able to say 83 and then 42. That is the reason. But we have others who said, no, please leave them, but it's very few of those. Yes.
All right. So thank you so much. That's Mr. Tapelo Mokoshani from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Deputy Director for the TRC unit within that department, talking about the project, wrapping up the project now in Komani with the 3 families welcoming their loved ones back home.